As part of my attempts to branch out into long-form content, I've been considering making a video series on Mass Effect lore for a long time, and what better place to start than with one of its core aspects, the Citadel. The centre of the mass relay network, and by extension, the heart of civilized life in the Milky Way galaxy, the Citadel was an enormous space station concealed in the Serpent's Nebula. Believed to be the crowning achievement of the Protheans by modern species, the construct, like the relays themselves, was much more ancient and held a much more sinister purpose. The inner ring of the Citadel, the Presidium, was the most civilized area, filled with politicians and other elites from across the galaxy and from almost every species. To accommodate them all, the Citadel utilised an artificial day-night cycle, artificial gravity, and other aesthetic comforts. The centrepiece of this was the Citadel Tower, most well known for its use as the Citadel Council Chambers, which dictated galactic law for uncountable years. Although not part of the standard features, there were also several historical monuments across the Presidium, such as a Krogan statue to memorialise their efforts in the Rachni Wars, and a scale model of a mass relay near the elevator to the Citadel Tower. Home to the majority of the Citadel's over 13 million inhabitants, the 5 arms of the station, known as the wards, were heavily urbanised, with vacuum-sealed towers aesthetically reminiscent of skyscrapers found in many Earth cities, and were almost never quiet, both due to the non-stop commercial activity and the impact of underworld elements such as the Blue Suns. Each of these were named as the following: Keithoi Ward, housing the Citadel archives; Tertiary Ward, the ward most heavily damaged by the Battle of the Citadel; Zakera Ward, home to all of Commander Shepard's favourite stores on the Citadel; Project Ward, and Shelter Ward. Along with this, Shepard visited several locations on Unidentified Wards, once during the events of Mass Effect 1, and again on the Silver Sun Strip, the latter of which was most likely part of Keithoi Ward. Beneath these were the Foundations, which held various key systems and were likely linked to the station's labyrinthine superstructure. Although only intended for keeper use, many of these areas became the slums of the Citadel and thus a hub for criminal activity on the station. Given the station's importance, it was one of the most heavily protected locations in the galaxy. Policed by 200,000 members of Citadel Security on a daily basis, the largest multi-species law enforcement organisation in Citadel space, although 50% of its staff were Taurians, and guarded by the Citadel fleet, consisting of ships from each council species, with most ships being Taurian, and led by the Asari dreadnought Destiny Ascension. One of the largest in Citadel space, this fleet was hypothetically able to secure the entire Attican Traverse were it not for the political ramifications that stayed the Council's hands. Although, it was still stretched thin and deployed to cover every mass relay that linked Citadel space to the Terminus systems in a vain attempt to contain Saman Arterius. As a final measure, the station itself was able to contract its arms to seal itself completely to defend all those inside, with the outer hull being strong enough to stand against enemy bombardment for days. More than enough time for reinforcements to be called in under most circumstances. However, not all of these measures were foolproof, especially bureaucratic CSEC regulations that could be undermined by human error.
A few minor changes were made to reduce the risk of Geth infiltration. We apologize for the inconvenience.
Geth do not infiltrate.
You should leave your personal synthetic assistant at home. They're not allowed on public shuttles anymore.
Geth do not intentionally infiltrate.
In the modern cycle, the Asari discovered the Citadel shortly after activating and exploring the relays within direct range of Thessia, believing that it, like the mass relays, were a construct of the Protheans. During their exploration, the Asari came across the Keepers, a docile species seemingly created purely to maintain the station. Under a century later, the Solarians arrived, which resulted in the formation of the Citadel Council to democratically lead Citadel space, as various species eventually received embassies aboard the station. Despite having control over it for hundreds of years, there were several major aspects of the station that were still unknown to its inhabitants by the time humanity was offered an embassy, chief amongst which being the intricacies of the Keepers. However, while hunting down the rogue Spectre Sauron, Commander Shepard had discovered the truth of the Citadel and how it was the centrepiece of a plan by the Reapers to harvest all forms of advanced life across the galaxy by acting in a mass relay linked to dark space. a process delayed by the last of the Protheans after the last Reaper harvest ended, and narrowly averted by Shepard upon their return to the Citadel. Even after the defeat of Salmon and Sovereign at the Battle of the Citadel, the Council denied the fact that the Reapers were still an active or imminent threat, or even the possibility that the Geth had ships that could outfight those made by the Taurians, and thus continued with the galactic status quo. However, in 2186 they were given a rude awakening as the Reapers arrived in force. The only saving grace was that the Reapers were seemingly reluctant to retake the Citadel after losing the Alpha Relay, which, aside from an attempted takeover by Cerberus, led to the station being a safe haven for those fleeing the war. This changed at the end of the conflict when it was revealed that the Citadel, or something within it, was the catalyst needed to activate the Crucible, at which point either the Reapers or the Elusive Man took control of the station and moved it to Earth. In the following battle, Shepard was eventually able to get into the depths of the Citadel through a conduit on the planet, and, after a confrontation with the Elusive Man, opened the Citadel arms to activate the Crucible, one way or another deciding the fate of the entire galaxy. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more, because as I mentioned at the start of the video, I plan to make a playlist dedicated to Mass Effect lore. If you're interested in more than just Mass Effect, check my channel for Halo or Star Wars content such as this video here. My next Mass Effect lore video will either be about the mass relays and biotics, or about one of the Council races, Asari, Salarians or Taurians, so let me know which you'd prefer to see first. Along with this, there will almost certainly be shorter form videos released beforehand. Thanks for watching.